I had just moved back into my dad's house, a temporary arrangement after my breakup. I told myself it was just until I got back on my feet, but deep down I knew I was avoiding the reality of starting over. My dad had a big house, the kind of place that always felt a little too clean, a little too quiet. He wasn't home much. His work kept him on the road, always chasing the next deal, the next conference. I barely saw him. But she was always there, Lena, my stepmom. She was everything my dad wasn't. Warm, present, alive. She married him 5 years ago, and though I never questioned their relationship out loud, I often wondered what she saw in him. They didn't seem to match, not really. He was all business. She was different. Playful, sharp, the kind of woman who made you want to lean in when she talked. From the moment I stepped through the door, there was a tension I couldn't explain. Nothing overt, just little things. The way her eyes lingered when we spoke. The warmth in her smile when I walked into a room. I told myself I was imagining it.
It was easier that way.
One night, about a week after I moved in, I walked into the kitchen to find her cooking. Music played low from her phone, something jazzy. She wore a simple black top, her hair pulled up casually. She looked beautiful. She glanced over her shoulder and smiled. "Perfect timing," she said. "You can help me with the salad." I hesitated but stepped forward. As I reached for the lettuce, her hand brushed mine.
A spark.
She didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. Then she laughed softly, a little too lightly. "You've always had good timing," she said, almost to herself. We chopped vegetables in silence for a while, and I could feel her glancing at me from time to time. The air felt charged. I tried to focus on the cutting board. "So," she began, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "How are you really doing?" I shrugged. "I'm fine. Just figuring things out." She handed me a glass. "You don't have to act okay all the time, you know." Her tone was softer now, more personal. I sipped the wine to buy time. "It's been rough, but I'll get there." She nodded slowly. "I know breakups can mess with your head, especially when you gave everything." That stopped me. I hadn't told her much about it, but somehow, she understood. I met her eyes, and for a second, neither of us looked away. "You deserve someone who sees you," she said. "Really sees you." My stomach tightened. This wasn't small talk. I looked down, pretending to be interested in the wine. "You and Dad, are you guys okay?" I asked before I could stop myself. She tilted her head slightly. "He's busy. Always has been. I guess I got used to it." "But are you happy?" She took a long sip before answering. "Happiness changes. Sometimes you don't even notice it slipping away until it's gone." I didn't know what to say. I wasn't supposed to be having this conversation with her. But I couldn't walk away either. After dinner, we sat in the living room with our wine. The lights were dim, the mood quiet. She curled her legs under her and looked at me with that unreadable expression again. "You remind me of someone I used to know," she said. "Yeah?"
Who? Myself.
"A long time ago. Before I settled." The word hung there. Settled. Like she hadn't chosen this life. Like she'd given up. "You didn't have to settle," I said before I could stop myself. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "We all do, eventually." There was something heavy in her gaze, something that made it hard to breathe. I felt like I was being drawn into her gravity. Later that night, I sat in bed, replaying the conversation. I told myself it was harmless. She was lonely. She needed someone to talk to. But part of me knew that wasn't all it was. There was an energy between us, an understanding, a spark that hadn't been there before, or maybe I'd just never let myself see it. The next day, I tried to act normal.
Kept busy.
Avoided long conversations. But Lena didn't. She found small excuses to talk, to sit near me, to brush past just a little too close. I kept telling myself it meant nothing. But it did. One evening, I came downstairs to grab a drink and found her already in the kitchen, pouring a glass of red. She poured another and handed it to me without a word. We leaned against the counter in silence. Something was building. "I miss this," she said quietly. "Miss what?" "Just being with someone. No masks. No pretending." I swallowed hard. Lena, this is complicated. I know, she said. That doesn't mean it isn't real. We stood there, the silence so thick it pressed on my chest. Then she reached out and touched my hand, her fingers sliding over mine slowly. We should talk, she said, her voice low. Just us. No judgments. And I didn't say no. I held the wine glass, fingers tight around the stem, trying to focus on the liquid swirling inside instead of the way Lena was looking at me. The kitchen felt smaller somehow, like the walls had inched closer. She leaned on the counter across from me, her eyes unreadable. You know, I don't say this to anyone, she began, but sometimes I feel like I'm just drifting. I glanced up. What do you mean? Like I'm living someone else's life. Like I made all these choices thinking they'd lead somewhere fulfilling, and now I'm just here, going through the motions. I said nothing, just listened. She took a slow sip of her wine. Your dad is a good man, she added, almost defensively. But good isn't always enough. Sometimes it's distant. Cold. I nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. I used to be this firecracker, she said with a hint of a smile. Always challenging, always dreaming. I don't know what happened. I think I traded myself in for comfort. Her vulnerability caught me off guard. I'd never heard her speak like this. Not with me. Not with anyone. And it wasn't just sadness, it was longing. You ever think about doing something different? She asked. Starting over? All the time, I admitted. But it's never that easy. No, she said, eyes locked on mine. It's not. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to want more. There was a beat of silence. Just her breathing and mine. You've always been different, she said. Even when we first met. You saw people. You listened. Not a lot of men do that. I looked away. You're married to my dad. I know exactly what I am, she said, voice firmer now. But that doesn't change how I feel. I set the wine glass down. Lena, she took a step closer. I'm not trying to seduce you.
I just need to say it.
I think I owe myself that much. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let her keep going. I used to imagine things, she said. Different choices. Different paths. You were in some of those thoughts. Harmless at first. Then not so harmless. Her voice cracked slightly, but she recovered quickly. I hated myself for it, she whispered. Still do. But I couldn't stop. I didn't know whether to run or stay. My heart was hammering in my chest. I felt like I was standing at the edge of something irreversible. You've never looked at me the way most men do, she continued. You don't see me as a prize or a problem. You just see me. I closed my eyes. This can't go anywhere.
I know that, she said.
But I can't lie to you. Not when we're standing in this space where everything feels clearer than it should. She stepped closer again, now barely a foot away. I could smell her perfume, light, familiar. I'm not asking for anything, she said. I'm just telling you the truth. Because I don't want to keep pretending. She reached out and touched my arm, lightly at first, then with a little more weight. I didn't pull away. I'm lonely, she said. That doesn't make this okay. But I need someone to see me. Just once. For real. My chest tightened. Her hand slid down to mine. Fingers intertwined. I stared at our hands like they belonged to strangers. I never wanted this to happen, she said. But now that we're here, it feels like something's awakened me again. I looked at her then. Fully. And I saw it. The hurt, the regret, but also something else. Something raw. We stood in silence for what felt like minutes. Then she took a deep breath. If I kiss you right now, I don't know if I'll be able to stop. She said it without seduction, without flirtation. Just truth. That was the part that broke me. You shouldn't, I said. My voice was hoarse. But do you want me to? I didn't answer. That silence was louder than a yes. She moved in, slow, uncertain. Her lips hovered near mine. I could feel the warmth of her breath. And then, just before anything happened, she stopped. No, she whispered. I can't. I won't be that woman. She stepped back, visibly shaken. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour.
I'm sorry, she said.
I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I swallowed hard. You're human. That's all. I think I need space, she muttered. Not from you, for myself. She turned and left the kitchen. I didn't follow. I just stood there, stunned, guilty, confused, and completely aware that nothing would ever feel the same again. The next morning, we didn't speak. She moved around the house like nothing had happened, like we hadn't almost crossed a line we both knew couldn't be uncrossed. I kept my distance, made up an excuse to leave for the day, and didn't come back until after dark. When I walked in, the house was quiet except for the soft hum of music coming from the living room. She was there, sitting with a half-finished glass of wine. She didn't look up as I passed. I thought I was in the clear, that I could head upstairs and disappear. But then she spoke. Your dad called. He's staying another week. I turned, nodded. Okay. He's always somewhere else. I don't know why I'm still surprised. I didn't answer. I made dinner, she said. If you're hungry. I almost declined. But I didn't. Maybe part of me wanted to know if the tension from the night before was real, or just some shared weakness we could forget. I sat down across from her. We ate in silence at first. She poured wine again. I accepted it without a word. I haven't felt this kind of tension in years, she finally said. I gave a cautious glance. You think that's a good thing? She shrugged. I think it means I'm still alive. The way she said it was quiet, resigned. She wasn't flirting. She was confessing. I should probably leave, I said. Where would you go? She asked, already knowing I didn't have an answer. We sat there, the silence stretching again. This time it wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy. You ever wonder what your life would be like if you made just one different decision? She asked. All the time. I wonder what would have happened if I met you first. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She already knew the answer. After dinner, I lingered. I shouldn't have. I should have gone upstairs, shut the door, put distance between us. But I didn't. I helped her clean up. Our hands touched as we reached for the same dish. She didn't pull away this time. Neither did I. You know what scares me the most, she said. That this already feels more real than anything I've had in years. I could feel my pulse in my throat. She looked at me again with that same searching gaze, like she wanted to find something she'd lost. It's wrong, I said. I know, she replied, but it doesn't feel wrong when you're here. That's when I knew we were already too far in. I told myself I could still walk away, that this moment didn't have to mean anything, but I wasn't moving. She stepped closer. Her hand found mine, fingers slow and deliberate. The silence between us was thick, expectant. I want this, she said. I didn't stop her. I didn't stop myself either. Her hand slid behind my neck, her mouth close enough to brush against mine. When we kissed, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, careful, like we both needed to feel every part of it. It didn't feel like a mistake in the moment. It felt inevitable. Everything after that was quiet and urgent, not reckless, not passionate in a chaotic way. It was deliberate, filled with the kind of need that's been starved for too long. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. We just moved together like we'd done it before in another life. I didn't see her as my stepmom then. She didn't see me as her husband's son. For a brief, suspended moment, we were just two people who had found each other in the wrong timeline. When it was over, we didn't move right away. The silence wasn't romantic. It was loaded. She pulled away slowly, looked down, and wrapped the sheet around herself. I shouldn't have done that, she said, barely above a whisper. I sat up, unsure what to say. We can't do this again, she added. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I believed it. It was a mistake, she said. A beautiful, terrible mistake. I stared at the floor. The guilt hadn't caught up yet. Not fully. That would come later. She stood, dressed without looking at me, and left the room. I stayed there, surrounded by the echo of what we'd done. I couldn't make sense of any of it. All I knew was that a line had been crossed, and there was no going back. I lay down, eyes wide open in the dark, replaying every second. Not because I wanted to relive it, but because part of me already missed the feeling. That terrified me more than anything else. The days after were quiet, but it wasn't the kind of silence that brought peace. It was thick, loaded, always hanging in the background like an unfinished sentence. We didn't speak about what happened. We didn't even look at each other for too long. I'd walk into a room, and she'd find a reason to leave. If we crossed paths, it was brief, tense, like we both knew any extra second would pull us back into something we didn't have the strength to resist. I thought about leaving, packing my things, and finding somewhere else to go. But I didn't. Maybe I wanted her to say something. Maybe I needed to know if it meant anything more than a lapse. But she gave me nothing. Just distance and polite nods. It was worse than anger. It was pretending. One afternoon, I caught her standing outside on the porch, staring off like she was waiting for something to end. She didn't see me. I watched her for a moment, and in that moment, I realized it had changed both of us. She wasn't just feeling guilty. She looked broken, like whatever part of her had still been holding onto herself had finally let go. That night, she knocked on my door. She didn't come in. Just stood there, arms crossed, not looking at me. "I need to talk to you," she said. I moved aside. She stepped in, but stayed near the door. "I've made a decision," she began. "Your dad and it's been over for a long time. I just didn't admit it until now. I didn't say anything. I'm going to tell him. About us." I froze. "That's not a good idea." "He deserves the truth," she said. "We both do." I shook my head. "That's not the kind of truth people forgive." "I'm not looking for forgiveness," she said. "I just can't keep pretending." "You think this ends well?"
No.
"But it ends. That's the point." I looked at her and saw how much it had cost her to reach this place. She wasn't being impulsive. She was exhausted. "I never planned any of this," she continued. "But I also don't want to erase it. What happened, it meant something to me. Not just physically. Emotionally. I felt seen.
Alive.
And I know how wrong that is. But it's also the truth. You're not just going to blow everything up." "I already did," she said softly. I walked past her, needing air, space, anything to think. She followed. "You don't owe me anything," she said. But I had to say it out loud. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," she said. "Just don't act like it was nothing." I turned. It wasn't nothing. That's the problem. We stood there again like we always did, too close to be innocent, too far to be honest. I didn't touch her. I didn't kiss her.
But everything in me wanted to.
"I'm leaving next week," she said. "I've already made arrangements. I'm going to stay with a friend for a while." I nodded, unsure how I felt. "He'll come back and I'll be gone. That's how it ends." "That's how it starts," I said without thinking. She looked at me, eyes filled with something that wasn't quite hope, but not despair either. "You're not responsible for me," she said. "I need you to understand that." "I know." She stepped closer, not to touch, just to be near. "This will stay with us. Whether we speak again or not. It's always going to live somewhere inside." "I don't regret it," I said quietly. She gave me a tired smile. "That's what scares me." The next few days passed like something out of a slow-moving dream. She packed while I pretended not to notice. We didn't talk much. There wasn't anything left to say. We'd already burned through every word that mattered. It wasn't a love story. It was a collision. On the morning she left, she paused at the front door, bags in hand, keys resting on the counter. "I wrote him a letter," she said. "He deserves his truth, even if he hates me for it." I didn't ask what she wrote. I didn't need to know. She stepped closer, rested a hand against my chest. "Be better than this." I placed my hand over hers. "I want to be." She nodded, tears in her eyes but not falling.
"Goodbye."
And just like that, she was gone. I stood in the quiet for a long time. I read the letter she left for me. Short, not dramatic. Just a note that said, "Sometimes the wrong person feels more right than anyone ever has. I'm sorry we met in the wrong chapter. I hope one day you'll find the right one." When my dad came back, everything cracked. He didn't yell. He just shut down. The house was colder. The silence was different.
Permanent.
We never talked about her again. And I moved out a few weeks later. Started over somewhere new. But the memory stayed, vivid and alive. Not because of what we did, but because of what we felt. It wasn't just a story of infidelity. It was a story of being seen too clearly, too late. And those stories never really end. They just live quietly inside you, waiting to be remembered.